Hello and welcome to India Career Center, the one stop podcast for students, professionals, parents, and guardians. In every episode, we will try to deal with a current topic that needs expert advice related to career guidance, and career mentoring. Please welcome your host, Dr. S.B. Mishra, to the show. And happy listening.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my 25th special episode on my podcast. And to commemorate that, I've got a very, very special guest, my guru in podcasting journey, Bijay Gautam. Of course, Bijay Gautam doesn't need a lot of introduction, but I still say a few words about him. Bijay Gautam is the founder of the Inspiring Talk, the podcast show, which is one of the most successful talk show. It has reached to more than 1 million listeners across the globe, and it has already topped in a couple of podcasting platforms. And Vijay also has co-founded a content creating studio called the WYN Studio. I think we'll learn more about him during this conversation. And as I mentioned, I started learning about podcasting through Vijay, and of course, this is too early for me to say that I have learned everything. I'm still learning, and Vijay in his commitment to students. So he said, "Okay, on your 25th episode, I'll be your guest." So I'm so honored, Vijay, to have you on my show as the guest.
What a pleasure in coming on your show. And first, congratulations on 25 episodes. I know the amount of time, efforts, and energy and commitment it takes to consistently put the episodes out. So kudos on getting to 25 episodes. So this is amazing. Congratulations. And I'm so glad to be here.
Thank you so much, Vijay. So just to start our conversation, so obviously I would like you to talk about your early life, your early education, and so on and so forth, so that we get a perspective about you as to how things have shaped you to what you're today. So
Yeah.
tell us about your early life.
Yeah, so I was, born and brought up in Nepal, and in a very very small village is where we originally come from, and later on, my parents. I think I was 5 when my parents migrated from that village to a town so that they can send me and my sister. And can send me to school, a better one, and and provide us education. So on all my childhood I was more of an average student academically, and when I was when we were growing up, we just had enough for our needs. We did not have anything for our luxury. We just we had to um, think before saying asking anything from our parents, because we know that me and my sister, we're not going to get anything. So but having said that, it didn't feel very bad, or it didn't feel anything unusual, because that's the kind of people that we're surrounded with. But also what I saw when I was growing up was my dad working really really hard. And when I saw that, I remember telling my mother in several instances, that hey mom, you know what, when I grow up, I want to do my own thing. I want to start my own business. I don't want to work for anyone, because I've seen my dad work really really hard for someone else, and earning so little. So that's something that I sort of remember, the conversations that I used to have with my mother. And also the other aspect that comes from my childhood is I was very active in the extracurricular activities. Like, I was the guy who would go and bring people together. I was somebody who would go up on the stage and hosts and host the annual functions or events in the schools. And I was the captain. I was the head boy of my school, and so on and so forth. So from that perspective, I was a popular guy, in the school. Everybody knew me because I was there, leading houses and stuff like that. Um, so from that perspective, it was fun because I loved always being outside, leading people, leading teams, being head boy, starting clubs, different kind of clubs, um, and organizing things. That was something that, I have sort of done all my school, and academically, I would just get the score, which would save me from any kind of attention, which means if you are a topper, then you get an attention. If you are somebody who fail the subjects, then you get an attention. So an average student, nobody pays attention to you, nor your teachers. Your parents are like, okay, it's all cool as long as you are not failing. So that's broadly what my sort of a childhood and upbringing has been. And After I have done my 12th, I wanted to study, biotechnology. And in Nepal, there is a university called Kathmandu University, one of a very, renowned universities. And I took an entrance and I couldn't make it. And when I failed that entrance, when I couldn't make it to the, university, that sort of failure, academic failure, sort of hit me hard. And I remember telling myself that, hey, even if I couldn't make it to the best university, I'm going to be best wherever I go. And I think that is something that sort of stuck, with me even now. So that's broadly, what my childhood has been. And after my 12th, then I came to Delhi for my, bachelor's. And, for the past almost 11 years, I've been in Delhi now.
Fantastic. And obviously, after your graduation in the college in Delhi, you took up a job, and how long did you work there? And then suddenly, how this thought of getting into podcasting? I mean, what really triggered the moment to decide about a podcasting as a career?
Yeah. So when I came to Delhi, I studied pharmacy, and I told you that all my life, I believed that I was an average student. And when I came to my college, there was not much extracurricular activities a college would do. And I was like really surprised to see that, hey, you know what, how am I going to survive in this? I need to be out there, be part of different communities, clubs, and, this and that. And there was nothing else that existed in my college. So I sort of turned to studies, and I said, okay. And also that failure hit me hard. And I said, okay, let me try and see if I can top the college. And that was crazy thought that I had. But I was committed to doing that. So first year of my college, I topped my college. Second year, I was awarded as the best student of pharmacy. Third year, I was granted full waiver scholarship. And final year, I was placed at the top pharma company. And even on that job, when they sent me for training for the first 3 months, they, hired some of the brightest kids from the country, and they sent us to the training center for 3 months. And I even topped that training batch. And within the first year of my job, they gave me promotion and, awarded as the most promising candidate. And, all of this looks so amazing. Wow, this all looks amazing. I have been hitting milestones almost every single year. There is something interesting that's happening in my life, right? For the past 4 5 years. And I thought that, hey, you know what, this is it. Like, what's the next milestone that I'm going to hit in my job? And 1.5 years into that job, I realized that I've been winning the race, but that was not the race that I was meant to run. And when that realization happened, I was shattered to know that, hey, you know what, if I continue doing this, I might hit the milestones, I might achieve results, but I'm not going to be happy because I was clearly not. I was in the lab working with fellow scientists, talking all the scientific stuff, and analyzing medicines, and so on and so forth. And then I realized, hey, you know what am I doing? I was supposed to be in front of people. I was supposed to be, out there. And that's when I thought, hey, you know what? if you don't want to do what you are doing right now, then what do you want to do? Then the answer that came from within was, I don't know. I clearly didn't know what I needed to do next in my life. So I was stuck in the sense that I had no idea of what I should be doing next. And my parents were putting immense pressure on pursuing masters from the US. And of course, with scholarship, because they knew that I had done academically well when I was in my college. And they knew that, I could go to the US um, and do masters and uh, and that's going to change lives of all of us, right? So that's they were pressurizing a lot on that. So they would say that, hey, why are you not preparing for the GRE? And I would just pick up the GRE book and then read, and then all of a sudden the imagination on my head would be, hey, you know what, if I do this and go to the US, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to study pharmacy for the next 2 years, and then rest of my life I'm going to be just I'm going to be stuck in doing something that I don't like already. So then I was trying to figure out, and then I thought that, hey, you know what, let me ask the people who have figured out what they wanted to do in their life, and let me get in conversation and try and find that blueprint for my life, right? So when I ask these people on their journey and story and how they figured their life out, maybe I'll find a blueprint in figuring my own life. So with that intention, I thought that let me start a podcast, and I started getting in conversation. And every time I would go and research about podcasting and how this medium works, and all that thing, all of a sudden I would say this different energy, going in my body. And then when I would pick the book to prepare for my GRE, which is required for you to get into the graduate program in the US, and all of a sudden I'm like, I would feel very it wouldn't just feel right. And this kept happening, of bouncing between also researching and building my podcast and also preparing for the GRE for a while. And then I had to take that hard call one day. I packed all my GRE material and then put it into a bag and threw it in the corner of the room. And I told my dad, hey, you know what? All I need is 1 year of my life. If I can make something out of this thing, well and good. If not, then I'm gonna leave rest of my life in your terms. And me and my dad, we ended up not talking for almost um, 2 weeks, but luckily, not none of my parents said anything for the next 1 year. They knew that, hey, you know what, he's gonna fail. Let him experiment. Let him also feel that we didn't come in his way of, his way, and so that at least he can't blame us. That we know that it's gonna fail. It's not leading him anywhere. And they didn't say anything for next 1 year. And then I completely focused on this, doing my show, and connecting with people and trying to figure my own life. So starting my podcast was more of trying to scratch my own itch and also do something which I was, really passionate, which was to have conversation with people, talk and host a show and stuff like that. This is something that I've always dreamed as a child. I even went to a radio station giving a trial, saying that I want to host a show on a local radio station. So I have done all of those. So I always, had a sort of a dream to do a show and talk to people and share the stories with other people's, and and it just felt so natural for me to do that.
Fantastic. I mean, it is kind of a happy accident for you to really stumble upon podcasting. And I'm just going to ask a very hypothetical question. If you knew um, before moving on to Delhi, uh, through some kind of support, some kind of scientific support or process, to know that your real interest is actually to be with people, and you will do extremely well when do some activity, something which is related to people.
Mhm.
Would this career direction would have been different? I know it is hypothetical.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing, right? I knew that I was good at, being on stage, and I knew that I'm somebody who needs to be in the media, right? Maybe in television, so 2011, 12, the internet era, was still sort of shaping up. Very few people knew what it means to create on internet. So that was not even a term. Creator was not even a term. So I would have never thought about maybe creating on internet, right? So, 2016, 17, 2014, 15 is when a lot of people also started getting into YouTube and internet and stuff like that, right? So I knew that I had to be in media, which meant either on television or on radio, and I knew that, right? And I went to seek an advice from some of the people in my network who were not in media, and they
Oh,
told me that, hey, you know what, media is not a good career option for you. You are not going to make a lot of money, or you are not going to like really it's very, very competitive, and it's very difficult for you to thrive and sustain and do really good in this space. So I think you should look for something else. And I bought that, you know and yeah, I mean, like you said, if I had taken that call at that point of time, saying that, hey, you know what, no matter, I'm not gonna listen to any of these guys. Or if I had somebody who could uh, tell me that, hey, you know what, I think you should go and do it because you like it, right? Then I would have gone and studied media, and maybe that would have really changed the career trajectory. Maybe I wouldn't have wasted my almost 7 years. I won't say 7 years of wasting, but also I learned a lot in that phase. But I would have studied something that could have helped me in my career, and or maybe also the other way to look at it is, if I had done that, maybe I would have settled for some local radio station or television. And here with the podcast, creating an internet allows you to reach to people all over the world. And your opportunities sort of multiply, as opposed to being on one channel or station. So I mean, that's also a way to sort of look at it. And also, it depends on and now with the internet era, I realized that you can make big with literally doing anything, right? I know a friend, all she does is she's an expert on hula hoop. She does this amazing tricks and stuff, and dance moves and stuff with the hula hoop, and she makes living just out of that, right? So I mean, this is the era where you can literally make money with anything, and that's the power of um, you know the economy that we are in right now.
I know, absolutely right. I think, I mean, rightly said. This is the creator economy, so to speak. Um, but here, I would definitely like to tell our listeners and viewers that, like Vijay has gone through his process of learning through life, and he did take a detour in his professional life, kind of, because what he's doing today and what kind of education steps he has gone through are obviously not related to each other. But today, I think it is possible to decide a very right career through scientific process. And 99% of the time, the suggested pathways will be absolutely in the direction which is aligned to the interest, personality, and ability of a child. So my sincere request to people who are watching this, who have children at home or who know children in their own circle, to definitely encourage them to go through this process if they are not very clear about it. Fortunately, today, I think because of the internet, there's a lot of information which is available. So our children, our younger generation are much more informed, so they know exactly what to do. But if still somebody is really confused, I sincerely request, do not take the chance, the path of chance for the career,
Mm.
because the life is going to be very, very competitive. Especially, I can say that the millennials in India, they are about 12, 13 crores in population. And for anything they are going to do, it's going to be intense competition. So it's better to get into somewhere where your heart is, you're liking it, and you love to do that for the rest of your life. So, what have been your biggest learnings, if I can ask you, both in your podcasting journey as
Mhm.
well as now with the Wine Studio? What have been your biggest learnings?
I think some of the biggest, some of the learnings, um, has been looking at my own career and things that I have done. Number one would be focus on one thing and stay true to it, because with the internet there is a new shiny toy that comes our way almost every single day. Today it's something else, tomorrow it's going to be something else, and the day after it's completely different thing. And if we get too distracted with a lot of distraction that comes our way, it's very, very difficult for us to succeed in one thing. For the past 5 years, I've just stuck with one thing, and that is podcasting, nothing else, right? I've just consistently, if you go and look all over my social media for the past 5 years, only one thing that I talk about is podcasting, my podcast, and everything that revolves around it. And that's what I've been completely focused on, and my effort, time, and energy has been on just that one medium, right? So that, I think, is something that I have observed in so many other people who have done really good in their respective domains. They are not distracted with something else, right? So when I started podcasting in 2017, and let's say TikTok came in, and I said, okay, now let me get on the TikTok. And then Clubhouse came in, okay, let me get into the Clubhouse and stuff like that. If I kept hopping from one place to other place every few months or every year, then I don't think like I would have been able to uh, really do well in any of those different mediums. So that's first, focus on one thing and stay true. Try it long enough. A lot of us give up a little too soon. We tried for like 3 months and we're like, okay, I don't think this is working. Like, give yourself at least 6 months. I know that 6 months might look like a long time, but it is not on the grander scheme of things. And there
Absolutely.
is no pressure for you to make it you know um in in a year, because there's immense pressure for us to figure everything out in our like early 20s, or maybe by 23 you should have figured out what you should be doing. If you are not, then it's okay for you to take that extra year. If you look on the macro level, which is assuming that most of us are going to live for at least 80 years. And by the way, with the advancement in the science and technology, we all are going to live much longer than 80. But assuming that we all live 80 years, if you take that 2 years or 3 years to figure out how the rest of remaining whatever 50, 40, 30, 70 years of your life, don't you think it those 2 years or 3 years of figuring out is worth to figure whatever you want to do for the next like 67 years of the life that you're going to live? So I think and then all of a sudden that 3 years of time that you're going to take to figure out looks like a very small time. So I'm asking about 6 months, right? Try something for 6 months, and before you can even make any conclusion or think that it doesn't work. So that is the first one that I would say, focus on one thing. Second is surround yourself with some of the people where you can constantly learn and get inspired by. Now, I give my example of me wanting to get into media, but I went for an advice, but to the people who have never been in media. And all they said was, hey, you know what? I don't think this is something that you should be doing. So never take an advice from somebody who haven't done it, and always surround yourself with people whom you want to be like, or and not necessarily you need to physically surround yourself with. Surround them on your Instagram feed, surround them on your LinkedIn feed, because that's where we are spending a lot of our times, right? So feel your Instagram feed or LinkedIn feed or YouTube feed or whatever, Facebook feed, with the people whom you want to learn, or the kind of mindset that you want to get in. Because when I was at my work, like how the most of the corporates are, not generalizing it, but a lot of corporates, how the culture can sometimes become toxic, right? Here I was at my organization. During the day I was complaining about everything. I was complaining about my boss. I was complaining that they were not giving pay rise. I'm talking complaining about the food in cafeteria. I was doing all of that. And then in the evening and on the weekend, I would come and interview people who are doing some of the amazing things, who are building companies, who are writing books, who are submitting mountains, who are full, into spirituality. They would talk about the purpose, the mission, serving humanity, solving problems to make everyone else's life easier. And I was blown away, with how these people are completely operating in different level altogether. And that allowed me to also, absorb a bit of that and then build that kind of mindset and, get out of the complaint and, the kind of ecosystem, right? Second, surround yourself with people who are constantly, who sort of gets you, who understand what you're trying to do. Most people don't. So that's the second one. And the third one, and again, to add to the second one, is also when you're surrounded with all these people, and whenever you get an opportunity to meet any of these people, spend time with these people, go for it, because the more people that you are going to build a support system, and that support system is going to really help you push forward. So that's the second one. The third lesson that I will say is, um, you know what you are doing. And again, the first one is like, I said, like, focus on one thing and figure out. The third thing is also know where you want to go. Like, path you might figure, but always have the vision on what you want to build for yourself, your family, and and the world. So I think those would be quick three lessons that I would say.
Fantastic. I think, simply put, you have created a very purposeful life for yourself, with a very clear direction about what you want to achieve, and you're just following that as a passion, as a purpose for your life. I think that's absolutely well said, and I'm sure it will resonate with most of the young children who are going to see this, or their parents who are going to see this. So you are running a very, very successful podcast, and how can we not talk about your podcast, The Inspiring Talk? So tell us about the podcast. Tell us about the journey you have gone through that, and what's in store for the future.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the way I started podcast was to figure out my own life. And I'm a big student of personal transformation. I love the ideas and personal growth. Anything that can help me make my life, business, career, relationship, spiritual life better. I'm sucker of that information. And this is something, I started when I came to Delhi and was, told myself that I'm going to top college, is when I started looking for motivation to, get to study, set goals. I was, introduced to goal setting in 2011. I was like, okay, my goal is to top my, and then I started breaking that down and then, implement it. And I saw my life completely transform with those ideas. And I wanted to explore more deeper insights and wisdom in that. And also wanted to learn how people think, decode their mindset, so that I can sort of pick things right. So my podcast, The Inspiring Talk, is very direct reflection of what's happening in my life. Why? Because at that point of time, that is the thing that I'm looking at learning. If I'm doing an episode on meditation, that means that I'm seeking an information in meditation. That's why I invited someone to come and talk about meditation. And that's why I always say that the Inspiring Talk is if there is one person who is most inspired by the Inspiring Talk, then that's me. Because I'm not somebody who teaches anything on my podcast. I'm not somebody who preach or share, like I tell people you have to do this or that, because I don't know. I'm is I'm just a learner like every other listener who listen to the podcast. It just so happens that I get to ask the question on the behalf of everybody who is listening to that, and I'm listening, my listeners are listening, right? So if I need to learn about entrepreneurship, business, team management, I'll go and find somebody who can help me answer the questions that I have. So in a way, it's it's a session that I do for my own, knowledge and need, where I need to learn from people that I've always looked up to. So now, having said that, the focus is, one is personal growth and second is inspiration. Those are the two themes that my podcast, The Inspiring Talk, is focused on. And now, talking about the personal development bit, now the podcast is, and I can say this, that not a single podcast in the country go in depth of the personal development insights that we go in this podcast. Just to take an example, the latest episode that we released is on just one thing, which is compassion. Like the one word, it just sounds like a word, but there is a person who have done research on how compassion can help you become a high performer, how it can help you become, how it can help you resolve your relationship problems, how it can help you become better, and so on and so forth, right? Now, when somebody comes and listen to that episode, they're like, oh my God, I've never thought that this can make so much difference in my lives. So I'm bombarding people with all these insights and wisdom, which they can go back and implement in their life. And even if they implement 10%, even if I implement 10% of what I, and which I have, makes a huge difference in my life,
Yeah.
right? And every single episode, there is something to learn. So that's one aspect. So I bring the ideas which is gonna help people make their life, relationship, business, career, spiritual aspect, health better, or I bring the inspiring stories which can give that kick in the butt that we all need to say that, oh my God, here is this person who has got such an inspiring story. I'm going to go and do something as well. So those are the two things, what the Inspiring Talk is all about. So now what's in store? Again, we are going deeper and deeper with the insights and wisdom on the show. Now, it's not just simple. When it started, it was simple, plain motivational podcast where you will get pumped up to do something, you will go and do. Now it's also a podcast where we are going deeper into the personal growth ideas, and and exploring it. So that's something that that we are doing. And now the show is also on video, so people can not only listen, but they can also watch these conversations on YouTube. So that's something that we've just started.
Fantastic. And of course, I will be sharing the link on the show notes also. I'm sure listeners and viewers from this channel will definitely like to see all your interesting podcast episodes and get inspired. I'm absolutely sure that journey will be very interesting for many of our listeners. Now, going forward, you also have started this new business called the WYN Studio, which is basically the content creator. It's something related to content creating, and basically it is trying to help others also to create their content for the podcast. So, tell us about this bit of your journey.
Yeah, sure. So, in 2018, I was doing my own podcast, and I was consulting a podcast company. I was making double of what I was making at my job, all set to give, kick my job, and then take that consulting assignment and do podcast full time. And then quite a few people reached out to me saying that, BJ, can you please help us as well, with our podcast? We'd like to start our podcast as well. So I started teaching people how to create podcast, and I started that in 2018, and I was doing that. And end of 2018, I had quit my job. So all I was doing was I was consulting this podcast company. I was coaching people, teaching people on how to create podcast, and I was doing my own show. And in this duration, in this period, I had done so many batches of those, teaching, coaching batches, and I thought that, hey, you know what, it's sort of getting monotonous, and I'm somebody who constantly need that new thing in my life, right? I get too bored when I'm doing the same thing for too long. So I was like, hey, you know what, I'm so tired teaching people, and that time I used to coach people, group of people through Zoom, and I was like, hey, you know what, I'm just sitting at my home and I'm bored. I need something interesting. So I thought that what would it look like if I took 10 people in the mountains and taught them podcasting in 3 days podcast retreat. So that's how, a friend of mine, Chetan Mahajan, he runs this beautiful place, 70 kilometers from Nainital, called Himalayan Writing Retreat, where people from across the world, come for the writing retreat, where they come and take the book writing workshop there. And I thought, I pitched this idea to Chetan, and Chetan's like, "What? This looks like an interesting one, because we already do one on blogging, we do on book writing. I think podcasting looks like a good fit. Let's do it." And and June of 2019, I guess, is when June or July of 2019 is when we put together our first Himalayan podcasting workshop, and 10 people joined in. And 3 days program. After third day, one of the participants of that event was Sonia. And we got talking, and she comes from her own startup journey, and her own journey of working with startups, starting her own startup in the past, and also her experience in the business. And we got talking, and then and then we were like, hey, can we do something together? And that's where we thought that let's start a podcast company, where we work with brands and help them with their narrative. So WYN Studio, WYN, stands for what's your narrative. And we believe that every single person, brand, has a narrative to share with the world, and the idea is to help them share it using audio and video. So that's what we do at WYN Studio. So we create chart topping podcast. We create podcast across the domain. We create podcast in different formats. We have done a mythology fiction to a food podcast to a podcast in Bhagavad Gita. So we do it all. So we have worked with some of the global brands like Binance and Mama Earth and so on and so forth. So that's broadly what we do at WYN Studio.
So, which means that the WYN Studio basically helps in organizing the whole concept. And
yes, we do
creating
end-to-end production of the podcast for the brands, like right from coming up with the idea, finding the host, getting the scripts done, marketing, distributing, all of it.
Great, excellent. So that's like a 360-degree solution for the
True.
industry. Great.
Yes.
Great. Going forward, what would be your view about how things are going to pan out in podcasting for next 10 to 15 years? I know the world is extremely unpredictable, and as they say, VUCA world. But what's your take on podcasting as a concept? How do you see that in 10 to 15 years?
So like you said, right? So another 10 to 15 years, that's like, the world is going to change completely. I mean, if somebody said that, AI and, and the metaverse and what's happening in that space, if anybody said that this is going to happen in, 10 years, nobody would have believed. And everybody would thought that, what are we even saying? Nobody even imagined or thought about that 10 years later, this is what's going to happen. So I think what's going to happen in podcasting in next 10 years, I don't know. But here's what I know: for the next few years, we are getting more and more busier. Like, we don't have time. We are always in the run. We are always moving and doing, so we are getting more and more busier with the time, right? People used to have more time when there were less distractions, which means like we don't have time nowadays. Like, people really don't have time, which means now the people are still going to consume the content. Like, content consumption is going to happen for sure. Now, what's going to happen in the podcasting space is, because people don't have time, because people are doing something else and getting busier and busier, but they still want to consume the content. And that's where my hunch is, people are going to still listen to audio, like when they are driving, and when they're cooking, or when they're cleaning, or doing whatever. These are the things that you need to do. And because that you need to do all of this, then you want to listen to something, you want to consume content, and and stay updated with what's going on in the world, how other people think, like how you think, how I think, or how someone else think. Now people want to know how people that they look up to think, and they will always want to get into their mindset and how they think and how they do stuff. Then they're still going to be listening to podcasts. And that's one. And second is also in India, especially the tier 2 and 3 and 4, that is now coming a big time, right? The Bharat that we say. So from that perspective, the podcasting is going to explode like anything, because we are the country that has grown up with the by listening to the stories. We have listened to stories all our lives, and now with podcast it comes back, right? So from that perspective also, I see that podcast in the next few years, of course, is going to grow. And we are right now at 100 million podcast listeners. I'm sure we are going to be maybe at 400 500 million in the next 5 7 years. So that's something that is clearly going to happen, because voice and audio is definitely not going anywhere.
Fantastic. And we did touch upon a lot of your story, and try to connect with what could be the possible advice to the young children. But then there are two parts of this question I would like to ask you. One is, what would be your specific advice to young children, especially the millennials who are in school or college right now, with respect to the career as an option to decide? That's one. And the second part would be, what would be your specific advice to young children who are thinking about a podcasting? I mean, they see an inspiring figure like you, and they are thinking, okay, this is the thing which I need to do. So what would be advice to these kids?
So I think for the people who are in their school and college, I would say times have changed, and you can literally make a living, and you can create a really good life doing literally anything. Like even if you're good at just talking, you can do it. Like if you are good at singing, or if you're good at anything, like you take anything in the world. Like I took an example of somebody being good at hula hoop. If you're someone who's good at one software, like whatever that is, a video editing software or audio editing software or graphics or whatever that is, right? One thing that you are good at, you can literally make a living out of it. And you can do that. You can so don't believe when somebody tells you that, hey, you know what, you should become an engineer or a doctor or the traditional career path. Go ahead and do it if you feel like becoming a doctor or an engineer, not because somebody told you that you can't make money by becoming a musician or a footballer. So and this is something that I always tell people, that so I used to tell that don't try being an Einstein when you can become a Messi, right? So if you have got a talent to become a footballer, don't try to be a physician. That was the idea, right? So whatever you have got a talent, you can make the career. Surround yourself with the people, look for the inspirations in the space who have already doing great job in your domain. So that's and if you are in the phase where you are about to make a decision on what to study next, go ahead and study what's going to help you fuel what you already know and what you already like to do. So study something that is going to help, because I see a lot of kids go to the college, and I can tell you that 60 to 70% of those people, those kids, they are there and they know that this is not what they wanted to really do. And that's such a sad situation to see, that 60 to 70% of people going to the college knowing that this is not what I want to do. So you don't have to do this. Now, for the people who are looking at getting into podcasting, know that not only podcasting, any kind of content creation game, whether you are creating a podcast or a YouTube video or writing a blog or like writing on LinkedIn or Instagram or TikTok, whatever you are getting into, just know that this is something, it takes time. Content creation, like anything else, for you to get any kind of result, it takes time. If you are dedicated and committed in and willing to spend time getting better and constantly improving and and sharing the stuff with the world, then go for it. You're gonna absolutely and do it because you love it, not because you thought that this is going to be a great career opportunity for me. And the only way that you will be able to sustain this is when you absolutely love it. Otherwise, in 3 months, you are going to give up and it's not going to work for you. So I would say just know that it's a long-term game, and know that it's going to demand a lot of time, efforts, and energy. Not only podcasts, like you have seen the YouTubers or Instagrammers, while it might look fancy on the front, but it's a lot of grunt work in the back end, which you and I do not see. So just know that. And but again, if any of you who are listening to this podcast are thinking of getting into content space, this is the time. And there has never been better times to get into content. Go for it.
Fantastic. And of course, I must also share that Bijay Gautam actually runs a fantastic program for teaching people of any age. Of course, I learned it podcasting just 6 months back from him. So anybody can learn it if you really want to do it. And as he rightly said, if you have the passion to do something, please go for it. And he has got a fantastic package which you can always check out and see how you can take it forward. Bijay, coming to the last one, you have been into content creation. You have been doing a lot of stuff in the content creation. Of course, the core is still the podcasting, and you do everything else around that. Any thoughts of putting all those great ideas and learnings into a book?
Oh my God. I mean, now you are, this is something that's been on my mind for a while. It's just that I'm being too lazy to, sit and put everything together around the content, how you can build the thought leadership with the content. When I heard that question, I'm like, oh my God, now it feels like, you're holding me accountable. But yes, I mean, the thought is there. When is the question? Because I'm as lazy as everybody else. So let's hope I get to action soon.
Fantastic. And I really wish I can be your accountability partner through WhatsApp
Please,
messages too.
please do, like, send me messages every week saying that what's the status on your book? Have you started working on it? Please do that.
Yeah, I would love to do that. It would be great for me to work with you, and it could be my guru dakshina to you, if I can put it that way.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Please do that.
yeah. So, Vijay, it was fantastic talking to you. You are so much of like your talk, so the inspiring talk. You are full of inspiration. Of anything can be done by anybody. You just have to recognize what you need in your life, be purposeful in your life, and go for it. I think if you consistently try anything you want to do, will be successful. And that's exactly what I learned from this conversation today. And I really wish our viewers and listeners will really enjoy our conversation. Do check out Vijay's podcast, The Inspiring Talk, both on YouTube as well as on the podcasting channels. And I'm sure you'd love it. And any of you wanting to take up podcasting as a professional career, and you want to learn the tricks, please do hop over to his career and the course, and I'm sure you will learn a lot much faster. Of course, you can do on your own as well, but then if you have a mentor, it becomes much easier, because not just the mentor, but also he has got a beautiful community through which you can learn a lot. So I have benefited through that. So which is why I'm talking about it. So that's it from my end. Thank you, Vijay. You would like to say some final words to our viewers and listeners?
I would say, leave with one thought that with the internet and everything that you see and the success stories that you see of 19-year-olds becoming billionaires, that can put a lot of pressure on you. But that's 2 billionaires out of 6 billion, 7 billion people in the world. So don't put a lot of pressure on yourself by looking at 2 out of 7 billion people making it big. And that's, should not put a lot of pressure on you. So it's okay to take time to figure out, but that does not mean that it's okay not to do work, or it's okay to be complacent and say that, hey, I have all the time. But I'm saying, don't stop doing what you're doing, but at the same time, don't put a lot of pressure of exceptionally successful people who which is very, very rare. So yeah, I mean, that's all I would say.
Fantastic. Thank you, Vijay. Thank you. Absolutely, it was pleasure to host you, and it's a great honor for me in my podcasting journey. I've just reached 25 and long way to go, but I'm enjoying every bit of this journey. And like you said, you learn with every episode. I make it a point to learn something new about what I don't know at all, and that's the whole purpose of doing this. And in the process, obviously, try to share this learning to the rest of the world and get benefit out of it. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I had a great fun being part of your show. Congratulations once again on 25 episodes. And I really thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vijay. Thank you very much.
Hope you enjoyed this episode. We sincerely wish you could take something from our conversation today and be able to apply it to your life in a positive way. We value your feedback. This can help us improve our future episodes. So share your thoughts to serve you better. If you want us to focus on a topic which you think is of importance, let us know. We will share our expertise in future episodes. So, see you soon with a new topic and help you in your career journey.